In this video, we're going to talk about the incredible, and honestly, the surprisingly complex world of the common worm. I know, they might seem pretty simple, but you're about to find out they are one of the most fascinating creatures wiggling right under our feet. So let's just jump right in with a little riddle for you. What has 5 hearts, 0 bones, and breathes through its own skin? Yep, you probably guessed it, the worm. And if you did, you're absolutely right. These things are biological marvels, and we are about to unpack all of their secrets. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics in Worm 101, then we'll take a look at where they live all over the world. After that, we'll get into their daily lives, uncover their secret social scene, and we'll finish things off with 5 totally freaky facts that'll probably blow your mind. Okay, first up, Worm 101. Let's get a handle on the fundamentals of what makes a worm, well, a worm. You know, you might think a worm is just a slimy tube, right? But this diagram shows us there's so much more going on. On the outside, you can see all those little segments, and you see that thicker band? That's called the clitellum, and trust me, it's super important for making baby worms, which we'll get to later. And on the inside, it's packed with complex stuff, a little brain, a digestive system, and not one, but multiple hearts. So, what type of creature are they exactly? Worms are invertebrates. It's a really simple definition, but it's a huge deal. It means they have absolutely no bones, none. Their whole body moves using a combination of muscles and water pressure. And here's where it gets even cooler. Earthworms are hermaphrodites. Now, what that means is that every single worm has both male and female reproductive parts. But this doesn't mean they can reproduce all that in cells. As we're about to see, it still takes 2 to tango, but boy, does this feature make things efficient. Okay, so where in the world can you actually find these wiggly little guys? Let's take a look at their global distribution. The short answer is pretty much everywhere. Seriously, worms are true world travelers. You can find them on every single continent, except for, the giant ice cube that is Antarctica. They have adapted to an incredible number of different environments, from the soils in your backyard to the rainforests of South America. Alright, so we know what they are and we know where they live, but what do they do all day? In this section, we're going to cover what they eat, how they reproduce, and just how long they get to live. Worms are basically nature's ultimate recyclers. They're what we call detritivores, which is a fancy way of saying they eat decaying stuff. They absolutely love things like vegetable scraps, fruit peels, coffee grounds, and even crushed up eggshells. But they are picky eaters in some ways, but not big fans of oily or processed foods, and too much citrus can cause problems. And onions and garlic? Yeah, that's a definite no-go on their menu. A worm's life isn't all about just eating, though. It's also about relationships. In their corner, they've got friends, a whole community of microbes, bacteria and fungi that live in their gut and help them digest all the tough material. But they also have enemies, pretty much any predator that can find them, especially for those worms that live close to the surface. Okay, now for the main event. How do worms make more worms? It is a wild process. First, 2 worms get cozy, line up, and exchange sperm. Then, that thick band, the clitellum, creates the slimy ring that turns into a cocoon. The worm then wiggles backward, and the cocoon slides forward, picking up eggs and then the sperm that was stored earlier. Fertilization actually happens inside that little cocoon after it slides completely off the worm's head. And from that one cocoon, you can get a whole new batch of tiny baby worms. So, how long do these amazing creatures get to live? Well, a common earthworm can have a lifespan of anywhere from 3 to 10 years. That's a pretty long time for burrowing, eating, and recycling. Now, you probably think of worms as these solitary creatures, just blindly digging through the dirt all by themselves. But what if I told you they have a social life? Yeah, this next part is a real game changer. And listen, this isn't just me making stuff up. This quote from researcher Laura Reserves shows just how much our scientific understanding is changing. The whole idea of worms being lonely wanderers, it's being completely turned on its head by new research. So how in the world do they do it? They form herds. You heard me right, herds. And they actually make group decisions about which direction to travel. There's no chief, no leader calling the shots. Instead, they talk to each other through touch. When one worm starts moving, the others can literally feel it, and then decide to join in. It's this incredible collective behavior, and it's not based on chemical trails like ants use, but on direct physical contact. Alright, it's time for my favorite part. We're going to wrap this whole thing up with 5 freaky, fantastic, and absolutely true facts about worms. Let's do it. Fact number one, 5. That is how many hearts a common earthworm has. Okay, so technically they're called aortic arches, but they act like hearts, working together to pump blood through their super long bodies. Next up, can you imagine eating your own body weight in food every single day? It sounds impossible, right? Well, an earthworm can do it. This insane appetite is what makes them such powerful little engines for creating healthy soil. Get ready for this one, 3 meters. That's almost 10 feet long. That's the maximum length of the endangered giant Gippsland earthworm from Australia. No, thank you. Here's a wild one. Worms don't have lungs at all. They breathe directly through their skin, and that's exactly why they need to stay damp. If their skin dries out, they literally can't breathe. And for our final fact, and maybe the most mind-blowing one, Charles Darwin, the father of evolution, was completely obsessed with worms. He studied them for over 40 years, and the very last book he ever wrote was all about them and their incredible impact on the world. I mean, if these Himmel creatures were important enough for Darwin, they're definitely important enough for us. Alright, that is it for this video, everyone. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video.